Sorry guys, I keep forgetting about recording. All right, recording. So we successfully connect our application with the database. Next step, we create the model. You can call it collections, but inside our application, we're gonna call it models. So create a folder, models here to contain all the models. So in the future, you may have user.js, okay, or genres.js, something like that. But for now, let's go with books first. Book. So go into book, import Mongoose. Go require Mongoose. Right. Now you can create schema type. Just copy and paste. New Mongoose dot schema. Okay. So this is the syntax, guys. Just follow, type along with me. And then finally, we're gonna export models.export equal to mongoose.model, and then the name of the model, I'm gonna call this model book, right? With the capital B to let the user know, or the developer knows that this is a model, and then the schema here. So this is a syntax. I'm gonna copy everything to you. Yeah, if you want to do it step by step, you can say book equal to this, and then you export book. Okay, same thing. So I'm gonna copy and paste and paste it on this box. Right. So now we have to do something inside here. We add fields into our models. So for example, I'm gonna add for book we have title, right? For book we have title, and we have string. The data type of that field, it could be string here. So it's the simplest form of how to define a model. We can have descriptions, also string. We can have just, let's go with this for now. Okay, description also strings. But here come the problems. What if you have to have some constraint for title? For example, the title has to be longer than 5 characters, right? Or description has to be longer than 10 characters, or title field is required, whereas the description is not required. So to do that, we need to give it an option, an object, not just a string. So options, we have type, string. Okay. Title is required. So you can say true, like this, or you can use an array and the message here. The second element is going to be the message. Title is required for a book, something like that. Okay. Book. And you can have more options if you want. For example, I want to trim it. Trim here means like if I have a title like this, hello world, space, 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 space. String here we remove. If you trim it, it's become hello world. Okay. If you don't trim it, it's database is gonna record set the exact same string here. Okay. So trim to remove the space in front and after the actual string that you want to save, I would say. Okay. You also have other type, for example, boolean or float. I think it's float. Not really, but usually you call numbers or doubles. I don't really remember if we can use double there. But usually I'm going to use number if you want number, type number. For now, just use a string, okay? Same thing for description. I'm going to copy this. Is it required? Yes. Description is required. I want to trim as well, but for description, I want it to be longer than, for example, 10 characters. So you can have something like this, mean length will be 10. That's it. Okay. So this is how you define a symbol model for the book. Right. So let's create a document, book document. I'm going to copy and paste this code. You don't have to type. Just code along with me. Okay. So go into route here. I'm going to create a new endpoint, a new router for books. So go to app.js. Where is it? I'm going to app.use books. Okay. And I'm going to say books router. Okay. So we need to define the book router here. Books router, and it's from books. Okay. We don't have books yet, so that's why the terminal here throw the error. Cannot find this model, so I'm going to create this inside route books.js. And as you know, you have done this one or twice before, right? Cool. This one, this is, I'm going to say, this is a book endpoint. Okay. Now I can, so everything is fine now. I can test on my browser. I can either use this browser to check localhost 5000/books. Okay, this is book router. So what we want to do is that we want to create a new book, right? We want to create a new book. So here's how we create a new book. You can do router dot route dot post, sorry, post, and then the same endpoint function request response next. Okay. Very similar to this one. Right here, I'm gonna add async here because we want to do asynchronous task inside this function. So we need to define async outside. Give the keyword async outside. And here I want to, for example, I want to add a book. And remember, in the lecture this morning, I used something like this: const user equal to user dot new user. There are actually two syntax. Okay, something here, right? And then user dot save. Right. So this from this is kind of like similar to something you see in the lecture. So let's do something like this. So so now it's not user, it's gonna be book. So I change this one to book, and this one a book route, book model, and this one's gonna be book dot save. Okay. So book here we don't have it. We need to import it. Book equal to require. We need to go up one level. So right now we inside the routes folder, right? As you can see in look at my my cursor here. So right now we are inside the routes folder. We need to go up one level and then get into the models folder. Okay. Up one level and then go into model level folder. And then this file, the book file. Okay. So we import book, and now we can call book. So to create a new book, we need to give it title and description. Okay. So it's an object, and title is gonna be. Let's hard code it first. I'm gonna say testing book. Description is gonna be hello world, for example. Okay, and then we save. So for save, you can either use await or not. It's fine. Await book save. So because it's an asynchronous task, so we need to let the application know that we are gonna create a book and wait for the results so that we can return to the user. Respond.json. So I will say status 201 or success. Okay, anything you want. And then the data will be book. Okay. So here, as a convention, to follow a convention, when we create a new resource, we want to return a start code 201, right? Meaning we create a new resource. And then this is the resource that we created. So here, to make sure our application will not crash, we can use try and catch. Okay. Try, catch. For catch, I'm going to say we console log the error first. Then we can respond with a status. For right now, just 500. Okay. And JSON status, something just failed, for example. Okay. Keep it simple. You can test it. I'm going to copy and this code for you. Where are we? Right. So let me test it on my browser. Actually, you cannot test on your browser because browser always send a GET request. So right now I want to send a POST request. So I need to open up my Postman and new collection. So Catalina, create, and where is it? Catalina book. I'm going to add a new request, and I'm going to call it create book. Okay, and load this. Change this one to post request here. Okay, and the URL is going to be localhost 5000 books here. Cool. But I don't want to type in localhost 5000 every time I create a new request. I'm going to use my environment. So you can either create a new environment or you can reuse the old one. So right now I have a localhost here. So I'm going to use it. So by default, this environment have this variable called URL, and the value of that variable is the exact same thing that I want to use, right? Localhost here. So I'm going to use an environment here. I want to apply this environment, localhost 5000 environment here, and I can call a variable using this syntax URL. Okay. Books. Okay, so I can send a test request. So now you see the response, the successful response, which have the started 201, which means I already successfully create this book in my database. So you can look at it now, take a look at this. I'm going to refresh the whole local. And here's the database I just created using the Express app. And here's the collection books. Inside here, I have one book which I just created, right? Cool. Right. So I will answer a question from Dũng. Where can I add in Postman, you mean? So here, if you want to add environment in Postman, just here, add a new one, give it a name, for example, Catalina local 5000. And you can also define the variable here, URL. Initial value will be localhost 5000. Right. I'm gonna add. Okay. So if you scroll down here, okay. So now I'm gonna use that Catalina local 5000. Okay. I'm gonna send again. So you will see another book with the same value but different ID. So here's the current ID. When I click send, it's gonna create a new book with the same title, same description, but different ID. So I'm gonna copy this ID here so that we can compare. Send, right? So the old ID is this. So this is the old ID and this is the new ID, different ID. And this ID is created by, generated by Mongoose or Mongo. You don't have to worry about it. Okay. Okay, so right now, if you check the database, you will see two documents here, right? With the same title and description, right? So recap. Quick send request. You sure you're running the correct port? On my in my code, I run on port 5000. Maybe you're running on port 3000. Okay. Let's recap this, guys. So in the first part of the lab, we connect our database to the application using Mongoose.connect here. Okay. Next step, we want to add a new book into our collections. Before we do that, we need to create the collections first. Or in other words, we need to create a book model. Sorry, for not found. So maybe you didn't have this route yet. Yeah. Okay. We need to create a book model, and here's the basic syntax to create a book model. We use Mongoose, and to create a schema, we use mongoose.schema. Okay. And there are actually two arguments inside here, but for now, let's go with one. The first argument which is required, and the whole object here is the argument, the parameter. Okay, and in here you can define the field for this for every single doc. So every single doc needs to have a title, a description, right? And if you want to customize the options for each field, you can do it like this. You can have type. You can ask, make it require field. So you need to provide the values. Okay, inside R. Yeah. Okay. I need to respond to Tung. Right. back to where I was. So we define two fields, title and description, and the option here is you can read more on this on in the Mongoose doc. So I'm gonna open Mongoose doc. Where was it? Uh, Mongoose doc. Go to models, model here, or schema, or model, doesn't matter. So here how we define fields for document. And I have the field title, descriptions. So right now we don't have author or body. You can add it if you want. You need to import it too. Uh, import it first. Okay. And when so here's how you define your schema. But and then you need to export it. Okay, export it. Create a model and then export the model. You must export your model in order to use, in order for it to be used in other files. So you create a schema here. Sorry, here. Create a schema, create a model, and then export the model. Okay, 3 steps. Create schema, create model, and then export model. Okay. And this is just controller that you already did last week a couple of times. You import a model in this file, in this router file, and then create a new book using this syntax. Okay. Using this syntax. Or there's another way to create a book. So this one way. I'll show you another way which I use a lot. Const book equal to await book dot create. Okay. And when we create, we can name it just like this. Okay. And then that's it. So you have two options, this way or this way. It's very simple. Open your Compass or your terminal and then run some queries to see the list of the result inside the collections. So for now, click on the database that we are working on, and then click on the collection name, books here. If you don't see it, just click on refresh button. If you don't see it's on the left panel, you need to refresh the list here by clicking it, refresh button. Click, 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 click. And then click on the books, and you see the docs here. Okay. Right. Are you so far so good? Are you here yet with me? Are you with me, everyone? We don't hesitate to ask question or stop me. I'm happy to do so. All right. Want to know? That TP in Compass. It's already there. It's already there. Okay. So answer to Dũng. Refresh the Compass. If you have Compass, if you have Compass to your local, you can refresh the list, right? And you should see, a database here on the left hand side. And just click open it, go into the collection that you want to see. Okay, good. Guys, if you have questions, just ask. I just open Compass, but I don't see any collections. did you connect to your local server? Yeah, you need to connect it. So here we go. I'm going to connect to. Yeah, just click connect. And here, how you connect? Mongo, DB, local host. Just the exact same string you put in your env file, okay? But without the database. Yeah, just this, and click connect. So here we go. Here you go to Catalina books and click on book. Right. Book. Right again. Guys, if you get stuck somewhere, you need to tell me where you're stuck at, right? So I can debug or help you get through it. Okay, again, one no. Okay. Only 3 people have done this. More. Wait, are people sleeping? I'm not sure. Why is there so little people? So few people? Okay, yeah, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, good. Books router is not defined. So here I have this line, right? Just add it. You also need this line, the books router here. You import the router from the books.js file here inside the routes directory, and the function here export the router. Okay, answer to there's Tiên ơi có cái code snippet ở bên channel này. We have a snippet here. I'm going to copy this again. I'm going to remove this and paste this here. Okay. So this is a controller to create a new book, and so add this to your app.js. Okay. And then you need to use the router as well. Okay. Suppose almost done here. Okay. Almost there. Okay. So let's click. There's another challenge here. So right now we only have code, the title, and the descriptions. So if you want to let the user to be able to decide which title they want to create, we need to read the data from the request, right? So I'm going to say body, title, descriptions equal to request body, right? So if there's no title, there's no description, then we stop, right? We return respond the status 400, then JSON status fail. The message tell what's wrong. We can use missing title or descriptions. Okay. And then if the user provide title and description, we can then use these two variables, title and description. Okay. Now you can test it. Open Postman. So right now, if I don't provide any information, I'm just clicking send here. It will throw error. Right. 400, which means the bot request. Bot request means due to bad syntax from the input. So it's a missing title or description. So to make it works, we need to provide the title. Hello world. And the description. Basically, this is my first book ever. You need to make a change into JSON. Okay, so now I'm gonna send, and you see a new document created. There we go. Okay. Ta-da! So this is we manually check the flow of the whole app. So for now, just go with this solutions. In the future, we will learn how to handle the errors like systematically, but right now we need to handle the error manually. And I think it's good if we handle the error case by case like this. So I'm going to copy this code. Yeah. Right. What do you put in Postman? I select body, the body tab here. Click on draw. When you click on draw, you have the option to choose the type data you want to send. So I want to send as a JSON file. Okay. And this is my JSON. Good question. Yeah, it's tricky, very tricky. So usually form data is to send files, binary files, to send files. And there's a bug here. There's a bug here in Express. You cannot. Okay, I think you can. Let's try it. Earlier, when we worked with the motor middleware, remember motor last week? Motor will read on the fields inside the form data and convert it into a different object. So we cannot, I cannot use form data with that. I'm not sure if we can here. So let's say I'm gonna send a form data to see if we can read the body here. I don't think you can. So let's say form data here, and I'm gonna send title, hello, and description. I make sure it's longer than 5 characters. Okay, I'm gonna send. Still sending a bot request, right? But you can console log request dot fields. I think. Right, again. Undefined. Something in there. I don't remember. Just Google it. So you can Google it like Express how to read data from data. Here you go. So this is your one. I don't think you can read it from data. You can only read it from URL encoded like this. Yeah. So title, hello, description, world. Okay. That works. So for form data, it's kind of like a different word. You need to use a special library to read that, and this gonna for mutable, and you need to use this in order to read it from the form data. Okay, it's different from URL encoding and JSON. Okay, so you can read more on this. All right, where were we? Delete this. Right. So for now, just go with JSON. Is the most popular format. We launch. So what's my next step? I forgot. What again? So what's the next step? Oh, there's a unique here. I will explain what's unique. Wait, I didn't see new data. Where I check. Can you click file again? For example, here, click file again. So right now, if I click file, I will see 4 entries, 4 documents. Oh, not really. Really? Maybe you had to hit refresh. Okay, 4 entries. Right. Next step. Oh, here's in the lab. I also have a unique drops here. So sometimes you want to make a certain field to be unique for the whole collection. For example, title has to be unique. So just type unique true. Or you can use an array as well. But this one is fine for me. So I'm gonna wipe my collections. Okay, and I add this. So when you add the unique, sometimes you have to wipe the collections because there might be some document that have the same value for title, and then you add unique there, it's gonna mess up with our database later. So be careful when using unique. All right, next step, I successfully create. So this one to create the book, right? So next, gonna update. Let's read all the books. Okay. Show all the books that I have in my collection. So let's create a couple of books first. I'm gonna create this book. All right, this is my Hello World #2. Here's my second book. All right, it's my book #3. This is my third book. Okay, done. So right now I will see 4 books. 3 books, sorry, my counting. Okay, 3 books. Right now, if you want to see the in the response here, you can do something like this. Let's follow me. So we have get here already. I'm gonna copy this, paste it here. So we have the get here. We can use something like this. Remove this one. What iScenes function, and I'm gonna get all the books, read all the books from the database. So we can use something like this, book a file, right? And then respond dot status. By default, it's going to be status 200, so you need to define the status code. Just send the data. Yeah, okay, right. Yeah. Status, okay. Data will be the books, right? Okay. So to read on the book is very easy, I would say. I'm going to paste it to the Discord so you can test. That's it. All right, let's test this route. I have created books, so I will create another request. So let's read all books. Save it to this collection. And so we can enter the new URL here. And voila, we have done. All right, I'm gonna check on you. So usually I will let student to type the code, so to get familiar with the code. But because we're running out of time, so I'm going to give you some snippet, copy and paste, and you can go home and practice later. Do you have any questions? As you can see here, to read on the book is very simple, right? Just to like code. You don't even need to try and catch, right? You don't even need to try and catch. It's very rare to fail, but to be consistent, to be kind of like error proof, you need to use try and catch. Okay, I'm going to copy this. You can also return a message. Message going to be error.message if you want. Again, I'm gonna change this one. Ah. There you go. All right. So we have read. We need to create update. Actually, update is hard. Much harder than the other. Not really hard, but a book using ID, right? Using ID. So I'm going to create an endpoint for that. Router.put. You can use hash. That's fine. And I'm going to say book ID. Okay. And this is going to be async function. Request respond next. There we go. Okay, so just like usual, we use try and catch. So, and then respond the status. Maybe 500 for now. JSON status. Well, and message will be error.message. Okay. So we create a new endpoint, the put method. This endpoint, so it's going to be like, look like this: localhost something, and then books, and then some ID here. put request, localhost book some ID here. So the reason why we need ID is that we need that ID to identify which book we want to update, we want to edit, right? We cannot just update everything or the list. We just want to select a certain book and then update the information. So that's why we need the ID to identify the books. For example, we want to change this one, the first book, then we need the ID of that first book, right? And so that's how, and here's how the REST API works, RESTful API. So we provide the ID in the URL. And so here's how you read the URLs. Book ID equal to request.params. You can use the structured text here. And I'm going to console the book ID to make sure we actually have it. There we go. And response and something. Okay. Okay, let's try, let's use Workspace to test this round. I'm going to create a new endpoint again. Update book. So click on this, select put request, URL, books, and I'm going to say book ID. Okay. So here, book ID, I'm going to provide some ID here. So let's say I'm going to take this ID, go and copy this ID, put it here. I'm going to send a request. Ta-da, you see OK here. And check the terminal. Now you have that ID from the request. So the next task is we're gonna use that ID to update the book. So there are two ways. Again, there are two ways. First, first is that we use ID to find the book and then change book value and then save it back to DB. Okay, that's one way. There's another way which is more robust or more optimized. Like we use ID to find the book and update it right away. So we use one query, using only one query, okay, and update it right away. Or you can call on the go right away, right? Using only one query. So this here, you find the book and then you save it back. So you use two queries. Okay. So that's different. Two queries and one queries, and actually it's much it's not it's kind of slower using this the first way, and because you use two queries to get the data, you use JavaScript to change the value and then save it back to the database. So which means you have three steps: find the book, update the value, save it to the database. You have three steps, and there might be something that happened between the time that you execute the logic, right? So it's called a condition race. It's a race condition. So assume that there's someone else want to update that book at the same time as me. So the data will be changed during the process. Okay? So that's called race condition or condition race. So people will try to avoid these solutions. They prefer the second option. So we use the ID, find the doc, and update it right away using only one query to avoid the race conditions. Right. So I will show you two ways as well, but I strongly advise you guys to choose the second option. So, so first way, we will count book await book dot find. So if you want to find using the ID, you have two, maybe three options. You can use find by ID, and then you just provide the book ID. That's it, right? Okay, so I will check this one first. If not book ID, then I will return response dot status 400 dot JSON and status fail, and the message will be need to some message need to provide book ID, for example. So if we have the book ID, so we can execute this logic. Okay. So and then we respond JSON others. Okay. Maybe you want to omit this key. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. But I prefer to have that, so that maybe on my client side we can check the status. It could be okay. It could be fail. It could be error. So I want it to be more clear. So data will be the book here. Right. Here we just find it. We need to update it as well. So book dot, for example, I want to update the title. So here I want to update the title, right? So I want to send a JSON body. If I want to update the title, testing book. I want to update the title to testing book for the first book here. Change from hello world to testing book. And you can do it like this. In the code, you need to do book dot title, just step by step. Book dot title equal to request dot body dot title. Okay. So now, what if the user doesn't provide the title? So that's very hard. You have to run a for loop. We have an object of, so for example here, expect to have something in request body. For example, it could be title something and description something, or nothing at all, or just title or just descriptions. So here maybe you have to look. Maybe you have to look the object here and change one by one, right? You change the title, you change the description, right? So it's more complicated. You can do something like this. For let let's key in book in request dot coding. So you can do book key equal request body key. So basically what it does is it's actually loop, just like for loop in array, but this time for in can loop the objects, the object. Okay. It tries to look through the object, it finds the keys for every keys here, right? You change the book key, book title will be equal request body title. So this is another syntax to look in objects. But if you want this way, if you see this way too hard, you can then you can do book.save, await book save, and then respond with the book. All right, that's one way. That's the first way. If you don't want to follow this way because it takes a while to execute these code, even though it takes 1 millisecond, but it still takes a while. There's another way we can use the second option. We can do something like this, cause book equal to await book dot file. Do anyone ask something? File one and update. So this is a method from Mongoose, or even it's easily doing MongoDB and Mongoose as well. So what it does is you can find by ID and update by ID. Sorry. So this and file by file one and update versus file by ID and update. So now you have two methods, right? File one and update or file by ID and update. So file one you can have multiple conditions. For example, I'm gonna use it here. I will show you the difference between these two. So if you want to find one and update, you need to provide the ID field, and it's going to be book ID, right? And the second option is going to be whatever you want to update. Don't worry about it yet. Find one and update, or you can use file by ID and update, just like that. And you provide the book ID for the first argument, and that's it. It's shorter. It's a custom method for Mongoose that created to help us write code faster and cleaner. So I'm going to use file by ID and update. Okay. And the second argument will be whatever you want to update. For example, I want to update with this content. So I'm going to put request.body here, right? Because request.body is going to be this object, and I want to update this object, the title, to my document. Okay. Now you have the third argument, as you can see here. Please show me the options. Okay, I don't have it. Okay, here we go. So the third argument is the option. You want to return the new results, the updated results, or you want to return the original results. So that depends on what you want to return here. So I want to get the updated results for the book, right? So I specify new, true. I will tell you where we have these options. And then I finally respond with the books. So let's try it first, and then I explain everything again. So I want to update this book from Hello World, change it to testing book. So I can click send here. Right. Sorry, books has been declared here. Right. I didn't comment this. Okay. Again. Done. So right now the document is changed. The title is changed to testing book. You can reload here and see it changed to testing book. So successfully changed. And I want to, for example, right now I want to change this one to, instead of first book ever, I want to change it to fifth book ever. So description, whatever, testing book again. Sorry, testing book again. And there we go. See, we successfully changed it. Right. Okay. And I strongly advise you guys to use the second option instead of the first option. There's some time you have to use first option because it's so complicated to update everything in just one single query. That's fine sometimes, but to avoid the race condition, you should use the second option as much as you can. Oh, sorry. And so here I will show you the documentation for this type of method. So go to Mongoose. You can search file by ID and update. Yeah. So just in a JSON, and that will know which field keys you want to update. Yes. So, so here we have this method, model dot file by ID and update. As you can see here, the model here is the name, the book here, book dot, right? Model book dot file by ID and update, file ID and update, and click on this. So here's the instructions how to use it. You have 4 parameter in total, or 4 arguments in total. The ID, which is the book ID here, right? The second argument is the update value, which is an object, right? An object. That's why you see requested body here is an object. And inside that is whatever you want to update, as long as it's inside the model, as long as the field is defined inside the model. Okay? And the third one is option, and it's optional. It's optional. It's not required. So it's optional, and in that option, the optional options, you have a couple of different options as well. So you have new, you have lean, you have strict, you have others, timestamp, everything else. Just for now, just pay attention to the new here. So basically, by default, it's going to be false, which means by default, it will return the document before you update, right? Before you update. If you set to new to true, it will return you the updated document, right? So that's how we read it. That's how we read the documentations. And if you don't know which method you can use, you can actually click on the model, and you have a bunch of query here. You have a bunch of them. You have file by ID, you have file one, right? If you want to update, you have a click on this. You have a bunch of different queries that will allow you to update. So for example, file one and update, file ID and update. Okay. What is this? All right. Almost there, but there's an error here. That's not an error, but there's a bug here. Can anyone tell me? There's a bug here. So I will give you 2 minutes to think. Right, 2 minutes to think to find out the bug. Where so if I put author as a key, not really you. It will ignore that field. It will ignore that field. Okay. So let's test it. Okay, let's test it. So if I put one more key, so for example, some bullshit like far, haha, right? And it sent testing book C's. That still work. No error at all. So basically, Mongoose will ignore whatever the field that you haven't defined in the model. Okay. So there's something. It's not. This code work fine, but not enough. Not error proof. You can make it more secure by saying, for example, what if the user wants to update the ID, right? They want to update the ID here, which you don't want that, right? The ID here has to be unique and should be generated by Mongoose. It should not be generated from whatever the user sent us. Okay? And that's why we need to protect a certain fields. We don't want the user to change. And you can use JavaScript for that. For example, I'm going to say allows field equal to an array. So I'm going to say I only allows user to change title or just restrictions. Okay. Only allow the user to change the restriction. I don't allow user to change title. So I can do something like this, cost allow, and then I can um, run a for loop. So allow field map, and each element is going to be string, right? So I can do something like this: if request dot body dot sorry, there's something wrong. So you have a requested body, you will is an array, an object, is an object, right? So right now it's have title, it's have description, for example, or it may have quite as well. And the purpose here is you want to remove title, you want to remove quite out of this body. So if you want to, you can use JavaScript. So you can use for let let key in request body, and then you can use if allow field includes key. If not include keys, then you remove it, delete request body key, right? So let's test it. So the purpose of this is gonna remove keys. Hello, which were not allowed. Okay. Let's try it. Then, so this is console log before s dot body, and this is after. We console log the same object, but before and after the code here. So let's save and try. We 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I'm gonna send it. Okay, now you can check your terminal. You see before you have description, qual, and total, but after the code, you actually remove these two fields, these two blocks out of the object. Okay, that's how you remove something inside from an object. So I'm gonna do this thing. And finally, we just put the object in the second argument, second parameter in this method to update the object. All right, so that's pretty much it. So that's how you guard against the case, the situation that people want to change something is not permitted in your database. Do you want me to delete this? Just keep it. So I'm gonna copy and paste this one to this file for you guys. Okay. Do you have any questions? This one is complicated. Scene 5 ID, but they ignore field keys. Oh, there will be some fields that we don't want the user to change. There are some fields that we don't want the user to change. For example, let me answer this question first. ID. For example, owner. For example, the different case that you don't want the user to change. Something needs to be controlled by application, not the user. Question from Tung. Where did you put the book ID? Okay. So in Postman, I name this as a, look at the column here, column book ID, which is a parameters, and inside params, we have the key called book ID, right, and the value. Ah, okay. Anyone else? Again, I'm gonna keep launching this poll. Can you post a contribution? Sure, sure, sure. Man, it's 3:30. Tuấn, you probably forgot. Is it pull request? I'm sure it's a pull request. And here, change to put as well. Put. Okay. I think people are sleeping. I'm gonna ping me. Vision. Stop working in public. Well, it's good if you see error. Oh, I forgot about it. Okay. Do you have any questions? Do you want me to go over the whole functions? Error is defined. Don't make sure when you cast, you define the error as ERR, and then you call ERR. Okay. So, okay. Right. Let's go over the last one, the the uh, the last function, which is deleting something. Okay, deleting something. We have done updates. Actually, update is harder than delete. Well, this one is hard. This one is hard. But you can play around with that. Okay. Okay. Body is not defined. It's requested body. Requested body. Not body. Requested body. Right. We want to delete something, right? So here's the flow. Delete a doc, a a, a blog, for example, a book. Sorry, books. So in real application, you don't want to. You actually, when a user click on delete something, right? Actually, we don't actually delete it. We just hide from the user. So you have two options again, two options. But actually, I want you guys to follow the second option. The first option is actually delete the doc, right, from database. Second options, we hide from user. Okay. So how do we hide? How do we hide? We can. Here I will add one more. I will add one more. Actually, in the lab, we actually delete it. We see very basic, but in your application, you don't want to delete. We say public. You can say public is delete. type boolean default will be false. So we add one more props or one more field to the schema, and here's the code. Okay. And by default, it's going to be false. So back to the controller. So when we, the first option is we actually delete the whole document. The second option is we hide from user by toggle is deleted to true. Okay, instead of deleting it, we toggle this one to true. And then when we find, we can do something like this. Is delete false. Okay. But if we want to return the document that's not deleted. Okay. Here we go. And so here, so let's follow the, let's do both. Okay, let's do both. Okay, we create a new endpoint, router.delete. Just like input put request here, we also need the book ID. So I'm going to copy this line. I don't need time, so lazy. Okay. Change this one to delete and close the function. Okay. Create another endpoint. Same thing. We're gonna copy this part. Actually, this whole part. Paste here. We have try. Then we have catch error, console log error, and then respond something. Okay. Okay, this is the typical format. Right. So we need to okay. Option one. Delete. Actually deleted. Actually delete. Dot. Okay. It's very simple. Just one line of code. It's deleted cons book equal to weight book dot find by ID and delete. Okay. And then you find that book and delete it. Pretty simple. Right. Don't worry about the user authentication right now. Right now we don't have any authentication, so that means everyone can delete the books if they want. So we can respond the status. So when you delete something, normally you want to send a request, a response with the standard code 204, which means you successfully did perform the request, but there's no data to return. So yeah, so you do something like this and pretty simple. And then let's try. Okay. Option one, actually delete the doc, and we do it here. So we have the list of the book here. I'm gonna send it again. Oh my God. What? Oh, you know why? But I don't have any books right now, right? Because I have a condition here is deleted false. So right now in my document, in my collection, there's no book that have that drops yet, that field yet. So that's why we cannot find anything here. So I can temporarily remove this. Okay. And see the list of the book. So right now, by default, when we run that query, by default, it's going to add is deleted to false for us, right? Awesome. All right, so right now I can add that code back and send request again. What the heck? Is deleted. Is deleted. Is deleted. False. False. Hang on, I need to check this. Oh, sorry guys, I need to check this one. I wonder why we still have the whole list. So is deleted false? That's weird. Oh, oh, it's magic here. Actually, there's no short field in the document in the documents, but for some reason, when we get on we get the whole list of the whole array. Mongoose is so smart and so annoying. It automatically add this field for every single document. We actually don't want that. So let me find out the way to prevent this. It's very confusing. Right now, just ignore that. Okay. And so I want to delete this book. I'm going to copy this ID. Copy this ID. Create another endpoint. I'm going to call delete a book. And this is going to be delete method books, and we also need the book ID. So here we provide the ID here. Okay. Oh my God, wrong one. So this is the read notebook. Oh, wrong one. Sorry. Sorry. Change this one to get. I changed the wrong one. Delete a book here. The URL books book ID, and you give the ID here. Okay. Change this one to delete method. No one people are sleeping. Okay. So now I want to delete this book. Hit send. So now you see 204, which is the server successfully execute process the request, but there's no data to return. So now we check the database. Click try again. So as you can see here, the first document was gone, deleted from the database. So that's the first option. Actually, delete the doc. But in Google application, data is very important. It's very precious, and product owner or the owner doesn't want. Usually, they don't want to delete such data. For example, people will make it will hide. So option two. Option two. Okay. Option two. Hide from user. So I'm going to disable this one, coming out this line. Okay. So sending cons book equal await book dot by ID and update. We use the same ID, book ID. Okay, so anyone help me to update this? Question. Challenge, please, I will say. Let me finish the functions. We did it before. So sleeping. People are sleeping. I'm gonna check. Relaunch. Juan. Hello. Right. Question is, can someone help me to finish this function? Juan. Right. It's very similar to what we did before up here. I want to update is it true? Yes, something kind of, but can you type it? So here's the example. And how do we type it here? we want to change is deleted to true. True. And for the documentations, model updating by one update. So the second argument is an object, as you can see here, right? An object. So first thing first, I need to make this an object. Okay. And what's going to be inside that? So too hard to see. Okay, it's going to be an object that whatever we want to update. Okay, replace with this document. Here we go. No, not again. Where was it? Sorry, I misclicked and it took me to somewhere else. You can say it. Where was it? Find by ID and update. Next, I'm going to click this. Okay, so the update here, the object here is going to be whatever you want to update, and it's going to be the object, the document that you want to override. So here we want to override. We don't want to override the whole document. We want to override this key only, which is delete, and we want to change to true, just like how we did it in yesterday lab. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Very similar. Right. So this is the whole object that we want to change. We trying to change this key only, and is committed to true, is deleted to true. Yeah. And so here's the third option is the third argument or parameter is optional. Optional options. Optional options. Okay. And you can return the new value or not. Doesn't matter. We don't really care. Sorry. We don't really care about that. So just remove it. And then we just finish with end setting. So I'm going to save this. Save. And try with Cosmic. So I want to toggle this book into true, deleted true, the second book. Okay, here we go. Okay, now we check the database. So is deleted true. Okay. Cool. So there's another, the last issue which just came up earlier. So when we decide to add a new key into the model, this model here, we add is deleted key, right? But the existing data, the existing documents didn't get updated. Okay. So to update it, automatically we can use something called migration. But this is kind of like advanced, so we'll talk about migration later, during the course later. But for now, just wipe the database. Okay, for now, just wipe it. Books, just wipe the whole collections, and I will create a new book again. So it's a hello world, and it's my first book. So there we go. So now I can. So by default is deleted. Is false. And here in our first function, our first handler, read on the books, I can add the filter is deleted to false. Okay. Which means we want to show all the books that is not deleted. Okay, so now go back to the Postman, try again. Read all the books. Now you only see one book which is not deleted. Okay, so if I change this one to delete it, okay, okay, now when you get again, you will see an empty array. Okay, okay, that's sum up everything. Not array sum up. So explain again. Okay, let's start again. Okay, I'm gonna give you the code first. Sorry. Okay, give you the code. So I'm gonna explain. Uh, so here we go. We have two options when we perform a kind of like a delete function. So first options, we actually delete the documentation, document from database. The second option is we just hide it from the normal user so that normal user will not see those books. But the admin, the one who controls the database, will still also see it, which means we keep the data. We just hide from normal user. Okay, so for option one, it's pretty straightforward, right? So let's not talk about it. It's just one line of code. Option two, just like updating, we need to make sure that we receive the ID. And then if we don't have the ID, we just return the error. Else, so this is else. Else. This else. So the whole thing here is else, right? But you have returned here during else. Okay. We find the book, we update on the go, we update using just one query and change this one to delete it. True. Response. We send a response back. 204 stated means there's no data that is returned for user. And user doesn't need to receive anything. The client doesn't need to receive anything. It just need to know that the request was successful. That's it. And why do we not? Why do we have to do that? Uh, First thing first, there's no reason to return the deleted data. Right? The second reason is that we want to save the, the bandwidth. We want to save this traffic. Right? So assume that this document is data is go, and we don't want to delete the data because data is go. Right? They actually the world has been accumulating the data for more than 20 years. Just like how we talked about database earlier this week. And we also want to save the traffic, right? Because for example, there's some documents that about like 1 MB in JSON file. That's very heavy, and we don't want to return that JSON to the client. The client doesn't have to wait 2 or 3 seconds just to receive the data, which they don't really need. So that's why we just return a set code 204 and then we send the response. Keep it simple. Only return the data that is needed. Okay, okay, that explains the whole function. And you also have the code. Right. So let me take a look at the lab here. Uh, you can go home and try to apply for author, which is the one who wrote the book, as well as the genres. Okay. Genre. Tomorrow we will learn how to connect these three collections together, connect them together. Today we just learned how to create and perform the group operation. Tomorrow we will learn how to link or connect them all together so that we can have a complete app. Okay. Okay. Oh, what is this? Ah, Forget about this. We will deal with it tomorrow. This pre-middleware or something. Today is kind of like confusing for you. But if you want to read it, there's the comments and description here you want to read. So your task is, let's say on Discord. So your on task actually create two more models and functions actually handler to code author and genres. Okay. Or you can just go over what we have done today and then take your time to finish the portfolio. That is also very important for this week. Also, remember to finish yesterday assignment. Don't just skip it. The assignment from yesterday is very important as well. Okay. You have three tasks. so, so three tasks in total. Okay. Do you have any questions? Before I will let you guys to have time to try coding. So, oh, I don't have any Git here, so I'm going to I will check it later. Case by case. Git needs Git. Um, oh, you need to do this as well, guys. Create a Git ignore, right? Where Git ignore, then you need to ignore this folder and this file. Okay, I'm gonna ignore modules folder, okay, as well as packet log, log JSON. Also, you can also ignore the .env if you want. So right now there's no credential or any sensitive information. Right? So if you have, you should ignore that file. Okay, click ignore, and then hit add everything, hit commit, slash push original. I don't have the git. GitHub. Create a new one. I'm going to call it Catalina 8.2. Okay, great. So I'm going to add the origins. Okay, so I'm going to stop recording and answer the questions. Fix the bug, actually. Fix the bug from Tuấn. Okay, take your time, guys. Be right back. Be right back. I need to put the video. Let's see. Stop recording.